Hello, Compton family. It's your Mayor, Asia Brown, and I am here to give you all an update for this week. Today is Wednesday, April 15th, 2020, and we have a variety of updates for you, including the latest on COVID-19 cases in the city of Compton. Also this week, we're doing something different. We will be hearing from a very special guest, Compton native and resident, Veronica Clanton-Higgins, who will be speaking with us on the importance of self-care and mental health and wellness during stressful times. We know that we are in a national pandemic. Many people have lost their jobs. Many people feel that they're in danger of losing their homes or their businesses. Unfortunately, some people have lost loved ones. Thankfully, we haven't had any fatalities in the city of Compton due to the coronavirus, but many people are shaken and unstable, and it's really critical to, I believe, access some mental health resources to help us get through this difficult time. Many of us are no stranger to hard times, but it's always great to have some tools to help us navigate in a better way. And so Veronica, as I said, is a resident of Compton. She holds her Master's of Social Work, and she is also a doctorate candidate for social work. She is actually also a case manager for Shields for Families, and they provide vital resources to parents and children within our community. It also should be noted, as I said, that Veronica was the lead of TEDx Compton Boulevard, which was a monumental effort to change the narrative in the city of Compton this past March. And that's just to name a few things that she's done, but she's an incredible leader, and we will hear from her later on today after our updates. And so as of yesterday, which these stats are updated almost on a daily basis, usually by 12 p.m. So this is the latest available update. As of yesterday, 12 p.m., there were 10,047 confirmed cases of coronavirus in Los Angeles County, including 360 fatalities. In the city of Compton, we have 70 confirmed cases. Again, we have 70 confirmed cases, which is a jump from last week. It is critical to observe the shelter-in-place, stay-at-home mandate. Please stay at home. Now there's a new mandate that was issued by LA County Health, which we are observing and enforcing in the city of Compton, and highly recommending that residents wear masks when they leave their homes. If you go into an essential business, the people that work there should also be wearing masks, and they should be utilizing gloves. We're asking that you please utilize your protective gear to keep you and your family safe from this virus. It is very contagious, very vicious, and is claiming the lives of people across the nation, and there is a distinct disparity in the number of cases and fatalities for African American people. And the conversation today that we're going to have on mental health, we know that PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, definitely has a metaphysical impact on our ability to combat illness, which ultimately is tied to our immune system. So it's critical that we not only take physical care of ourselves, but we also take mental good care of ourselves so that we can be in the best position possible to combat this virus. We are also doing our absolute best to place information and resources at your fingertips. For those of you that are connected through the city's website, you can go to comptoncity.org/COVID-19.asp, and you can get the latest. There's a full dashboard with all of the city, county, and state resources to help you navigate this very critical time. There's also a Compton resource guide, which includes a full detail of all of the service providers in the city of Compton that are servicing our community, from mental health resources. We talked about if you need food and groceries for your families. There are organizations that have band together, and they're serving thousands in our community at no cost. If you need diapers, or if you're have senior parents or family members and they need personal care items, we have them through our service providers through the Compton United Relief effort. So please access that information, please share it. And we again are updating that information almost on a daily basis. As new partners and new resources become available, we're sharing that information. There's also hot meal deliveries available for seniors and veterans. So if you have a need, you always can email my office at contactmayor@comptoncity.org, and we will route you directly to the service providers in our community that are in partnership with the city to service our residents. Also, we have a physical newsletter paper for our seniors that prefer reading updates on hard copy. We have finalized the latest version of the newsletter to include the COVID-19 resources. We have a hard stop at updating it this week, and we'll get that out to your doorsteps within the next week or so. So please look for that. Also, on just standard city updates, last week I discussed that CIP, which is Capital Improvement Project 1801, will be on the council agenda for approval. It was approved last night unanimously by the city council. Phase 1, which is a $5.8 million project for residential street rehabilitation. This is for full reconstruction down to the dirt, new installation of curbs, gutters, grading, speed bumps, also ingress, egress for the driveways or manholes that are attached to these streets will also be upgraded. And the current streets that are in this phase are Murr Street from Santa Fe Avenue to East City Limit, Tejada Avenue, Rosecrans Avenue to Compton Boulevard, Bradfield Avenue from Pixley Street to Compton Boulevard, Elva Avenue from Parmalee Avenue to 138th Street, Grandee Avenue from El Segundo Boulevard to 138th Street, Caldwell Street from Oleander Street to West City Limits, and Alondra Boulevard from Lime Street to East City Limits. From those of you that are following the updates, we also approved about $4 million of street repairs on last week. So this is a cumulative of just over $10 million in just 2 weeks for street improvements in the city of Compton. It is projected that at the start of the new fiscal year, July 1, we will have programmed about 50% of all critical streets for repair within our community, and we'll have more updates for you, but I can assure you we are working diligently on improving the condition of our streets, and I will continue to give you the latest updates regarding your tax dollars at work. And now we will get right into our mental health discussion with Veronica Clanton-Higgins. And before we begin, I'd like to just read Veronica's biography so that we know who we're talking to. Ms. Veronica works, Veronica's work includes a research study in collaboration with California State University Long Beach, the Long Beach Black Infant Health Program, and the March of Dimes. Her study focused on reducing stress in African American women, we definitely need it, through the use of mindfulness-based cognitive behavior therapy. She also has collaborated with Cedars-Sinai, Maternal Mental Health Now, and Black Women for Wellness to create mindfulness-based curriculum for African American children to assist in increasing emotional awareness. Her current research focuses on the impact of trauma on individuals who live in marginalized communities, and I'm really excited to speak with her today because I'm very passionate about PTSD and the impacts that chronic post-traumatic stress has on our metaphysical composition as people living in communities of color. We're already bombarded with institutional and structural racism. We're also dealing with environmental racism, with the particulate matters and all of the air quality issues that we deal with, even noise pollution that we deal with, living close to trains and all these things that are systemic. And so it is imperative that we, as people of color, take a charge with our mental health, access mental health resources, and connect to one another so that we can learn better practices on how to improve our mental health. So I look forward to this discussion with Ms. Higgins, and we will take it away.
Hard on ourselves because of what's going on, as opposed to taking a minute and say, wait a minute, this is uncharted territory. I've never been through this before. I haven't had time to prepare for this. And so just allow themselves to kind of process and accept what this new normal is going to look like for the next probably couple of months.
Absolutely, Veronica. And so what can you say to those people that are really just impacted by loneliness, for the extroverts out there, or for those people that are living alone? I mean, what are some great tools that we can use for that?
And so I always tell people, try your best to stay connected. And that doesn't mean go to somebody's house, because we're not supposed to be doing that. Right. What that means, if you live in like a community, You can walk to your yard and talk to your neighbor from the yard, right? You're still honoring social distancing. Now you're having some human contact, right? And you can have a conversation with someone as opposed to just isolating yourself in the house. And always remember to wear your mask. And also I'm telling people, if you have access to technology, you might want to download an app called like House Party. So House Party is an app that people are using to have virtual coffee dates with their friends and family members, because guess what? Everybody's on Zoom right now. Right. So if you use like House Party, which is an app, you can have like happy hour with your friends, coffee dates, and things of that nature. And it's really cool when someone logs in, the app alerts you, say, hey, such and such is in the house. And I also tell people, let's use the phone again. Have those conversations, because we got so acclimated to texting and social media that we lost the fine art of actually picking up the phone and calling somebody, to hear their voice, to hear the compassion in their voice, the love in their voice, because hearing that voice, it can have a calming effect on another person. So hearing somebody speak to you. So give somebody a phone call as well. And so when you use apps, I also tell people, also start emailing again. We don't want to really send letters through the mail right now, but guess what? If you have a computer or a phone, send somebody an email. Let's start an email correspondence going on and just communicate. Because sometimes you can say things through an email that you might not be able to say over the phone. And so for my extroverts, House Party is for you. Get that Netflix and chill app with the Chrome extension. Have a Netflix party with your friends. And so, and if you're an extrovert as well, go outside on your porch. Talk to your neighbor. There was a video on social media. A gentleman was a DJ. He brought his DJ equipment in his yard, and he started playing music. And all the neighbors were in their yard just dancing and have a good time. And so those are ways to connect to your community without endangering your community or yourself. So using various apps and things of that nature.
I learned something new. I have to try that out. Thank you. Switching gears a little bit, for those people that have children, what is your recommendation to really connect with your kids on, number one, like what's happening here, and because we don't want to give them false expectations that things will go back to normal, because I personally don't believe things will ever be quite the same. But what is your recommendation on kids talking to our
I always tell people, know your children and know their level of understanding and comprehension, especially their emotional capacity level. And so personally, I have two children. I have a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old boys. And so essentially what I did was just have the conversation. I sat them down. I said, look, I know a lot has happened, especially after they were abruptly pulled from school, right? And they couldn't go outside. I have a son that plays tennis. You can't go to the park. You can't go play tennis. You can't do this. People are wearing masks. You see us washing our hands. And so what I always ask parents, be patient with your children, be honest and transparent to their level of understanding and emotional capacity. Right. And you want to model for them how to deal with it. So if they see you yelling or going off or things of that nature, that is how they're going to cope as well. But if you use this time to just educate your children, look, you know what? There's this thing called a coronavirus, and this is why we have to stay in the house, and this is why when mommy goes to the store, you can't come with her, but you see mommy wear a mask, and why we got to wash our hands, and mommy takes her clothes off. And so you just want to have those age-appropriate conversations. And then you also, like when you have children the age of my children who are on social media, you want to make sure that you're sharing correct information with your children, because there's so much going on social media, on Instagram, and things of that nature. So I always sit down with my boys and ask, okay, so what did you hear? Okay, so this is what it really is, and things of that nature. So based on the age of your child, let them know what's going on, reassure them that they have you and that you're going to keep them safe, and just provide them with updates as it goes along. Say, hey, you know what? Being at home and doing school is new for you. It is new for mommy too. We're going to figure this out, right? And also, if you have children that are school age, don't expect them to do 6 to 8 hours of classwork. So show some compassion for your children. You want to break it up a little bit and just be compassionate to your children. Be transparent with your children according to their emotional capacity, and their comprehension level. And just don't tell them, oh, everything's going to be okay. You just want to let them know we're all trying to figure out what's going on. Things change from day to day, but just know mommy's going to be here, or daddy. We don't want to assume there's no father in the home. Mommy and daddy going to be here to keep you safe. And just, as we transition, we'll let you know how things are going. So just having those conversations, and you have kids in middle school or high school on social media, please make sure that you show them where to get correct information. Sit down with their phone, take them to the CDC website, right? So they can share that information with their friends. So just educating and just being supportive and understand you're all in uncharted territory.
Absolutely. Thank you for those really relatable and usable tools for sure. Thinking about those people that we talked about, introverts, we talked about the kids, but thinking about this new normal and what this means, what can you recommend for maybe those people that feel like they're thriving? If you're an introvert, this is all good. But what are some self-care techniques that you can identify that we can begin to implement during this time?
So one thing I always tell people to do is tap into your spirituality. We never want to underestimate the power of prayer and meditation. I always tell people prayer is when you talk to God, and meditation is when he responds. And so you want to make sure that you tap into your spirituality. Additionally, sometimes people may feel triggered. So I always tell them minimize your contact with the news and probably take social media breaks. Now, if you do feel anxious or feel like the information is overwhelming you, I do this thing with people called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And this is the way to check in with yourself. So you'll look, especially if you're by yourself, or you're feeling like if you're a single parent and you don't have no one else, like an adult, to bounce off of, you want to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you want to see 5 things that you can see, right? 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Because what this is, it provides a distraction so that way you won't feel anxious, you won't feel emotionally overwhelmed. And it's a way for your body to come back to the present. And so that's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's a self-check-in. Additionally, I'm sorry. Additionally, I always tell people, move your body. Dance in your living room with your kids or your spouse or whoever's in your household. Do some yoga. I know Miss Wang and Yoselin, they do the stretching on Instagram Live. Exercise. If you got that Shanti DVD, pop it in, because the endorphins and all those feel-good hormones that pump through your body after you exercise can help lift your mood. Additionally, get some vitamin D. So if you can step into your backyard or something of that nature, you want to step outside, because sometimes when you're in the house, it feels claustrophobic, and that can exacerbate any type of symptoms of isolation that you may be feeling or anything of that nature. So when you're feeling that way, take a step outside or open your window, let the sunlight through. And then you also want to just process how you're feeling. I know a lot of times we pretend everything's okay, I'm good, yeah, we fine, but internally we are struggling. And I tell people you can do an exercise where let's look at how this coronavirus has impacted your life. Right. So how has it impacted your life? You can write it down, you can say it out loud, and then you want to look at, well, what are some solutions to this? So if I can't go out the house anymore and turn up like I used to on Saturdays, what is the solution to that? Because what that does, it empowers you to make you feel like you have control of the situation. So we're no longer going to look at the negative aspects of it. Now we're going to look at the things that we actually can't control, which helps to reduce stress and anxiety. And so you want to look at the way coronavirus has impacted your life. And then you want to look at the ways you can deal with that. That's in your control. That's in your power. So
that's really critical too, to kind of regain what's within our control, because this whole situation obviously is not within our control, and that can really get people to a place to where they feel uncertain. They feel just really shaken. So that's a great way to just get some firm footing once again.
Right.
I wanted to just ask you, and I know this could like really literally jump down a rabbit hole, so I'm not going to do that. But I just want to talk about, because this is a real passion of mine, PTSD and our communities of color. We're starting to see more discussions from a health component on the disparities that people of color are already challenged with. When we talk about specifically with coronavirus, we know that people of color are significantly impacted because of environmental issues with air quality and all the impacts to particulate matters and all the things that we live with on a daily basis. That impacts our respiratory system's ability to recover, which is exhibited in the high instances and the stats of African American fatalities with coronavirus. So I see the direct link of PTSD and how that molecularly changes our bodies and our responses, literally physically and metaphysically to stressors, and how this is passed down from even generation to generation, compoundingly. And so then when you add a issue so significant, a pandemic of coronavirus on top of that, a lot of times the natural response is people are already dealing with so much, and this is just one extra thing that literally can be a tipper for people in the mental health space. So can you just talk a little bit about PTSD? Let people know what the proportion of mental health weight, I just can say that we're dealing with as a whole already, so that people can know it's okay to feel not okay. Because
And I always tell people it's okay to not be okay, because when we look at communities, especially communities such as the ones we live in, you have this thing called complex trauma, which means that the individuals in the community are consistently exposed to trauma after trauma after trauma, right? And to the point that sometimes they disassociate or they become numb. And so they're like, oh, we such and such got shot. I'm okay. I'm not, it doesn't affect me. Well, subconsciously and physically, it actually does, right? And so when we look, and I'm glad you brought up the metaphysical aspect of it, because considering the history of people of color in this country, it has been discovered that trauma can be passed down from generation to generation, which can also explain high blood pressure in African American communities and maybe even other communities of color, heart disease, things of that nature, because when you are under a lot of stress, you get what's called a stress hormone, which is cortisol, and that can damage your body, damage your heart, and things of that nature. So if you already are predisposed genetically to something such as that, when you have something such as coronavirus, which is a lot of people are experiencing vicarious trauma from hearing the stories and things of that nature, now you have this other thing that's compounding you, and it impacts your ability to heal. It impacts your body's ability to just be. And so what you see is when we look at the disparities in healthcare, disparities in resources, and already a predisposition to certain things, you will see a higher fatality rate in communities of color, just like we see when we look at infant mortality rates in women of color. And it's all because our bodies have already been genetically predisposed to certain things. And so when these other environmental factors come in to attack us, we succumb to it quicker than our counterparts who are of other races or ethnicities. But this is why research is also showing that when you meditate, pray, it literally rewires the brain. And it's not, it's been proven. Yeah. It literally rewires the brain. So what the brain does, it rewires the way the brain responds to stimuli, right? And so if you are in a community where you're exposed to trauma after trauma after trauma, right, your brain is already predisposed to react to certain stimuli. So you're going to be hypervigilant. You're going to be paranoid, right? You're going to feel anxious, right? But when you learn the power of meditation, prayer, mindfulness, this is why mindful cognitive behavior therapy is becoming a thing, because you're training your brain to respond differently. And so you can break an intergenerational curse that way. You're teaching your brain to respond differently to certain stimuli. And people do not think this is true, but it is. I am living proof.
As in I've been through some things in life. It may not look like it, but I have. And I've seen my mother and, my grandmother, and just generationally. So we are
right.
That.
We are living proof. And I tell people, I was, just a little bit of transparency, I was briefly incarcerated a while back, right? And the only way to get through it was to be present with myself, right? And to pray, sing, move. All these things I'm telling you guys to do in isolation, we do in isolation when you're incarcerated. And so what it does, it helps keep your stress hormones down, so that way your body is not impacted by it as much. Because we know genetically there's still going to be some things going on, but you want to reduce that, right? And when you are taking control of that, you're actually improving your health, rewiring your brain, doing all these wonderful things. And then your children or your spouse or your friends seeing you do it, so then they're going to start to do it as well. So now we're starting this thing of people learning to rewire their brain. And it's very important that we do not dismiss the brain and the brain chemistry. The brain is only about 3 pounds, right? But it is a very, very powerful tool, and it's very critical in our behavior, in our feelings, in everything that we do, right? And when we learn to monitor ourselves, when we learn to be present with ourselves, to tap into ourselves, it's always funny when I first teach clients how to meditate or to be mindful or present. They're like, this is weird, this is strange, I don't want to do this, you know? But once they keep practicing, right? And then they say things like, you know what, Veronica, someone made me mad and I didn't even respond the way I used to. You're starting to change the narrative, not only socially, but on a physical level. And that is very important when we think about the communities that we live in, the communities that we exist in, the things that we see, right? And when you live in a community, I grew up on the east side of Compton in the 80s. Nothing but crack cocaine, dope dealers, Jerry curls, all the good stuff, right? And so people don't understand. I also tell people who are working with clients in the community, we want to make sure that before you diagnose a child with ADHD, make sure that child doesn't have PTSD, because the behaviors mirror each other. Remember, a child does not have the capacity to say, I feel anxious, right? I saw this happen. What they're going to do, they're going to act it out. And so we always want to make sure when we're in the community and you see that person on the corner and you walk by and they jump, don't get offended, right? That person may have suffered significant trauma that you don't know about. And so there's a book called A Body Keeps the Score. Our body does keep the score. And so when we learn to reframe our thoughts and reframe our reactions, we actually are taking control of our physical self, which can help improve our health and improve our ability and our body's response to stress triggers.
Absolutely. That is just so powerful, Veronica. And I just concur with everything you said. And I mean, truly, like prayer, meditation is just so powerful. You literally can retrain your brain, your life, your body to just have a whole new response and just recreate yourself. So
right.
That's just real powerful. And I wanted to know if you could just share a real basic, just on a day-to-day basis, as we're in quarantine, what are your recommendations? And you've gone over this, but I'd like to just recap.
That's fine.
How we can stay in a good mental health space. And if we're not in a good mental health space, how can we get on the road to getting there?
And I also have some numbers that I want to share for people who may need additional assistance outside of what is being shared today. So number one, I always tell people, stop yelling at your kids. If your kids are working your nerves, go in the bathroom, close the door for a minute, and just count to 20, or do your favorite little dance, whatever you need to do to de-escalate yourself. Because if you are in a constant elevated state, you're going to also be yelling at your kids, and then that's not going to help them. They just go keep acting up. So just adding structure to your daily schedule at home for your children, right? Because children drive in structure, right? And you know your children better than I do. Also, when you are feeling triggered, just make sure you check in with yourself. I do this thing where I talk out loud, and I've done it before if I'm driving and I feel, okay, what are you feeling right now? And I'll be like, I feel anxious. Right? Well, why do you feel anxious? I feel anxious because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or next week. And it's just things just keep changing and I'm scared. Right. And then I say to myself, well, what can you do about it? I can continue to pray, meditate, watch less of the news, and just check in with myself when I'm feeling that. If you ever see me driving and you see me talk, I am having, because it's something about when you say something out loud, right? It's just very powerful to speak things. And so I have those conversations with myself. Additionally, if you can, and don't watch the news as much, probably pick a day of the week that you will catch up on the news, but make sure the source that you're going to is a reputable source, right? You don't want to go to World Star or the Shade Room. You want to make sure it's a reputable source with valuable information. Additionally, set boundaries with your conversations with people in the home or people who are contacting you, right? A lot of people talk about the stimulus check or, we won't be able to do this. So you can tell people, look, I don't have the capacity for that right now. Let's talk about something else. And if they continue to have a conversation, it's like, you know what? I'm going to get at you later. So setting boundaries as well with yourself. But if you feel like checking in with yourself, minimizing conversations or even social media, or even like the mindfulness or the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is not working for you, then I do have some numbers of a 24/7 access line through Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health that you can call, and you will have a trained professional on the other line to help you properly process your emotions. Some people do not have the capacity to do it by themselves, and we have to be honest about that. And it's okay if you realize that you need someone else, a professional, to assist you. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? And so I'm going to, is it okay if I share the number?
Please, and then we'll also include it on our playback. Yes.
Okay, so if you are experiencing emotional difficulties, you can call 1-800-854-7771.
Okay.
24/7 access line. And then there is also a disaster distress helpline. And since a lot of teens, they like to text. So for the disaster distress helpline, you can text Talk With Us, TALKWITHUS to 66746.
Okay. 667.
So a number you can call and a number you can text.
Thank you. Those really powerful tools. As people of color, as a community, Compton, we really have to break the stigma of accessing mental health.
Yes.
Mental health is essential. If you need mental health tools, if you need a mental health coach, if you need a mental health counselor, these are all great things, and you're taking charge of your mental health, which impacts your physical health and everything else around you. This is a great thing, and this is something that other communities, other ethnicities have utilized for, centuries. And this is something that we have to really get a hold of. And it doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're incapable. It means that you are taking charge of your health and wanting to be better. And we should all want to be better. And it takes effort and a roadmap to do that. So
yes,
thank you so very much, Ms. Higgins, for all of the gems that you've shared. Want to just sum up a couple of things for those people that have joined a little later. You shared the 5-4-3-1. Could you just go back over that one more time for those that need to take notes?
Yes. So 5-4-3-2-1 is a mindfulness technique that allows you to check in with yourself when you're feeling triggered, anxious, or overwhelmed. And so what you do, you'll be in a room and you'll feel it and you'll be like, okay, what are 5 things I see? Like I see the wall, I see a yellow pillow, and then you do 4 things you can touch. Mm-hmm. Touch the cat, touch the car. 3 things you can hear. So you're bringing yourself back to awareness. 2 things to smell, 1 thing you can taste. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear. 4 things you can see, like 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Yes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think I went too fast.
You got it. You said 5 things that you can hear. Excuse me.
5 you can see.
4 that you can hear, 3 that you can touch, 2 that you can smell, and 1 that
And one that you can taste. Yes.
so
Don't be
don't
saying it
taste
so
5
fast.
things. No, we got it. Don't taste 5 things, everybody. We're all struggling to
No.
come out of Corona in the same clothes. So let's, make sure that we only taste one thing.
One thing.
And then I really love what you shared about just how to, I believe that women are the command center for our households. And to all the women that are doing this on a daily basis and have been doing it for centuries, salute and much respect to the super women. But Veronica, stop yelling at your kids. That's
I'm
really
yelling at
important.
them.
And we got to stop yelling at our kids. It stresses the children out. It's just, nothing good can come out of it. So let's stop yelling at kids.
Mm-hmm.
Shared that it's critical to have some structure for your kids because kids thrive in structure. You also shared that it's critical to do a self check-in. Just check in with yourself on a daily basis, see how you feel, see what, whatever you're feeling, verbalize that, and then ask yourself what you can do about it.
Right.
And then rest in it if you don't have the power to change it. But and then also to have boundaries. So you said boundaries with, people that may bring some negativity to you, have boundaries with what you consume. So what you watch on TV, what you consume on social media. And you also recommended to just maybe have like a daily check-in on the news. So just get the cliff points. I mean, you don't have to,
Right.
I call it the news roller coaster. I'm notorious for this. I don't watch the news during the day. I literally read the high points at the end of the day.
That makes sense.
That'll just tell us what the critical things are. You don't have to go on this ride with the news on a daily basis. It'll work.
Right.
You also shared a great resource tool, The Body Keeps the Score. So if anyone wants to enrich themselves, we're going to pick up The Body Keeps the Score. And then it was in relation to talking about also complex trauma. And so I know that there's just so much work to do. There are great people doing work in the community, but I do think this was a great way to just talk about mental health, to really set a stage for doing more in mental health. And I think the silver lining of this pandemic is forcing us to be more efficient in using tools like Zoom. Although we lose the human connection, we're still connected. And so I think that there are so many opportunities to do some mental health fitness checks with the community moving forward. So I am open to collaborating with you in anything that you would love to do.
Anything that you need, I'm here to support at any time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Veronica. So thank you for joining us, and we will share this great content on all of the city's outlets. And you can also tune in every week. We will be inviting a new guest to just share more information. We have so many. Compton is wealthy, number one. So rich and just great people like Veronica, highly experienced, highly educated, just full of love and compassion for our city. And so we're pulling in, you all are the experts to talk to us and with us about how we can be better. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being our first guest, Veronica, our inaugural guest, which I think is fitting since you brought the inaugural TEDx Compton Boulevard to the city of Compton. And we are going to be continuing the marathon and having more conversations to just lift our city. So thank you. God bless you. I will be keeping all of you in my prayers. Prayers are powerful. Prayers change things. You don't have to be eloquent. You can just literally just say, hey, God, I'm here. I need you to touch my mind. I need you to touch my heart. I need you to touch my family. I need you to put a hedge of protection, Lord. I need you to shift my perspective so that I can see things the way you need me to see them and adjust my thinking, adjust my whole atmosphere. And I mean, that's a real simple. Just threw that out there. God heard it. And believe me, you will feel like a weight has been lifted because it has. And we recognize, and I think I just want to step back, that this pandemic has really, obviously, it's been really hard for many of us in so many different ways. But I always try to take a step back and say, okay, what is God doing in this? What can I get out of this? And I just really think it was an opportunity for us to pivot our perspective, to focus on the things that are truly important, do a reset on how we're using our time, and to really look at, okay, what can I build here? And when we've all been segmented from being consumers now. So, we can't just go out and hang out. We can't do all these things that, people like to do or socialize, but this is a great opportunity to just have some more awareness and to think about, how can I be a producer? How can I connect? And I say that to say that this is not the pressure to come out of the pandemic with a new business or a new anything. That's not what I'm saying here. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that this is a great way to just reorient our perspective, take some mental health checks, and to figure out, how we can just grow and change and evolve and come out of this with a much better awareness of ourselves and our community. So thank
Right.
you all. We will see you next week, 2 p.m. God bless you all and talk to you soon. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.